The stars had never seemed so quiet. Ambassador Keiko Chen stood before the viewing window of the accordance hall, watching ships from 1,000 worlds drift past like fireflies in the dark. 200 years ago, humanity had joined this great federation. 200 years of peace, her communicator buzzed. The display showed an urgent message from Earth's Science Council. She opened it with a finger swipe. Ambassador, we have a situation. Dr. Marcus Webb's face appeared on the screen. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. Behind him, screens filled with data and charts covered every wall. What kind of situation? Keiko asked. 3 days ago, our deep space telescopes picked up a signal from the galactic core. We thought it was natural at first, just radio waves from a pulsar or something similar. But then we analyzed it. He paused. It's artificial, very old. And very specific. Specific how? It only affects humans. Every other species in the accordance has been exposed. Nothing happens to them. But humans? He rubbed his face. We're having reactions. All of us. Keiko felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of reactions? Headaches at first. Then dreams. Vivid ones. People are reporting memories that aren't theirs. Ancient memories, hunting, fighting, running for days without stopping. Webb leaned closer to the camera. And there's something else. The aggression levels are rising. We've had 47 violent incidents in the last 24 hours across all human colonies. 47. We haven't had that many in a decade. This was bad. Very bad. The accordance prided itself on peace. Humanity had worked so hard to earn their trust. In the 22nd century, humans had voluntarily modified their own genes to reduce violence. They called it the Great Pacification. It had been the price of admission to the galactic community. Can you stop it? Keiko asked. We're trying. But the signal is everywhere now. It's in our networks, our communications, even our entertainment systems. Trying to block it is like trying to hold back the ocean with your hands. A soft chime echoed through the hall. Keiko glanced at the schedule display. The Accordance Council was convening an emergency session. About humanity. She could feel it in her bones. Keep me updated, she told Webb. And Marcus, try to keep people calm. I'll do my best. The screen went dark. 3 hours later, Keiko sat in the council chamber facing 2,000 species. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some existed as clouds of organized particles. All of them were watching humanity with concern. Council Speaker Threnval spoke first. His translator box turned his clicking sounds into words. Ambassador Chen, we have concerns. Your species is showing signs of instability. This threatens the peace we have all worked to maintain. We're investigating the cause, Keiko said calmly. This signal appears to be targeting human neurology specifically. We don't understand why yet. Perhaps, said Representative Muldar, a being that looked like a floating crystal. This is simply humanity returning to its original nature, the nature you suppressed to join us. Keiko wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Deep down she felt it too, something stirring, something that had been asleep for a very long time. Halfway across the galaxy, Captain Sarah Okonkwo paced the bridge of the Prometheus. Her ship was on a routine survey mission near the outer rim, but nothing felt routine anymore. Captain, we're receiving strange readings from the crew, her medical officer reported. Heart rates elevated. Adrenaline levels up across the board. Everyone's on edge, Sarah knew the feeling. She'd been having the dreams too. In them she ran through tall grass chasing something. Her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. She never stopped. Behind her, others ran too. Her pack, her tribe. They ran together, hour after hour, until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. She shook her head, trying to clear the images. Keep monitoring. Let me know if anyone needs sedation. Yes, Captain. The navigation officer spoke up. Ma'am, we're picking up an energy signature. Unknown origin. It's coming from coordinates that should be empty space. Show me. The main screen displayed a region of space that had been scanned hundreds of times before, always empty. But now something was there. Something big, it's a structure, the officer said. Massive. It's powering up. Sarah's instincts screamed at her. Those new instincts. The ones that felt old and familiar despite being newly awakened. Battle stations. Shields up. Her crew moved with unusual speed. Usually there would be confusion, maybe some delay. The Accordance had been at peace for millennia. Most species had forgotten how to respond to threats quickly. But humans remembered. Or rather, they were remembering. The structure on the screen began to glow. Strange symbols covered its surface. Old symbols. Really old. Dr. Webb's voice came through on the ship's communication system, broadcasting to all human vessels. All ships, this is Earth Science Council. We've decoded some of the signal. It's a message from an extinct species called the Architects. They lived 200,000 years ago. The message is a warning, and it's a test. A test for what? Sarah demanded. For apex predators, species that evolved through hunting. Persistence hunters specifically. The signal is designed to identify them, to wake them up. Sarah felt her blood run cold. And humans are the only species in the accordance that fits that description. Yes, Captain, be careful out there. We don't know what else the Architects left behind, but if they were testing for predators, they had a reason. The structure fired. Sarah's hands moved before her mind fully processed the danger. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. The Prometheus twisted through space with a grace that surprised even its crew. The ancient weapons blast missed by meters. How did you know to move? Her pilot asked, voice shaking. Sarah didn't have an answer. She just knew. The same way a wolf knows to circle its prey. The same way ancient humans knew to throw their spears before their enemies expected it. Because we remember, she said quietly. God help us all, we remember. Back on the accordance station, Keiko received the report of the attack. Around her, the council members shifted nervously in their seats. Speaker Threnval's voice was grave. The monster awakens, Keiko stood tall. No, humanity awakens. There's a difference. But even as she said it, she wondered if that was true. Dr. Marcus Webb hadn't slept in 4 days. His laboratory looked like a storm had passed through it. Empty coffee cups covered every surface. Data screens glowed in the dim light, showing strand after strand of human DNA. There, he whispered, pointing at the screen. His assistant, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, leaned in to look. What am I seeing? She asked. Genes that shouldn't be active. They've been dormant for over a century, since the Great Pacification. Marcus zoomed in on the molecular structure. The signal is turning them back on. Every single human exposed to it is experiencing genetic reactivation. Which genes? Marcus pulled up another screen. The ones we suppressed. Aggression, endurance, pack coordination, persistence, everything that made our ancestors successful hunters. He looked at Yuki with tired eyes. Everything that made us dangerous. Yuki sat down heavily. Can we stop it? I don't know. The signal has been broadcasting for 200,000 years. It's encoded into the background radiation of the galaxy itself. Blocking it would mean blocking everything. No communications, no sensors, nothing. So we're stuck with it. Yes, but that's not the worst part. Marcus pulled up a new file. I've been analyzing the architect data we recovered from that structure that attacked the Prometheus. The signal isn't random. It's not even really a signal. It's a test. What kind of test? An identification test. The architects were looking for something specific in galactic species, an evolutionary trait, apex predation through persistence hunting. Yuki frowned. I don't understand. Marcus stood and began pacing. Most predators are ambush hunters. They hide, they wait, they strike fast. But humans evolved differently. Our ancestors didn't have fangs or claws. We weren't the fastest or the strongest. But we had one advantage. We never gave up. He pulled up an image of an ancient human hunting scene. We would chase prey for hours, sometimes days. We'd track them across vast distances. When they ran, we jogged after them. When they rested, we kept coming. Eventually, they'd collapse from heat exhaustion. Then we'd close in. That's horrifying, Yuki whispered. To the prey, yes. But it's also brilliant. It requires pack coordination, communication, endurance, and intelligence. It's one of the rarest hunting strategies in nature. And according to the architect records, humans are the only species in the known accordance with this evolutionary background. Why does that matter? Marcus opened the final file. His hands shook slightly. Because 200,000 years ago, the architects encountered another apex predator species, the Kareth, and those predators nearly destroyed everything. The screen filled with images of devastation. Worlds burned. Civilizations ended. The architects had recorded it all before they went extinct. The Kareth were persistence hunters too, Marcus continued, but they never learned to control it. They spread across the galaxy like a plague, fighting everything, consuming everything, The architects created this signal as a warning system. When it detects an apex predator species, it activates. It wakes them up. So the galaxy knows what's coming. Yuki stood up quickly. We need to tell the council. I already have. They're meeting now. The Accordance Council chamber was chaos. Representatives from thousands of species shouted over each other. Some called for humanity's exile. Others demanded genetic suppression. A few, very few, urged calm. Ambassador Keiko Chen stood in the center of it all, waiting for her turn to speak. Finally, Speaker Threnval called for order. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Chen, you have heard the concerns. You have seen the evidence. What is humanity's position? Keiko took a deep breath. We understand your fear. We share it. This awakening is affecting all of us. Some humans are struggling to control it. We have people in medical facilities across our colonies sedated because they can't handle what's happening to them. She paused, making eye contact with as many representatives as she could. But we've also seen what it can do. Captain Okonkwo and her crew survived an attack that would have destroyed any other ship. They moved with speed and coordination that shouldn't be possible. They fought for 3 days straight without stopping. They won. That proves our point, shouted Representative Muldar. You are dangerous. We are capable, Keiko corrected. There's a difference. For 200 years, we've lived peacefully among you. We've contributed to science, art, and culture. We've helped build this accordance. One signal doesn't erase all of that. The signal reveals your true nature, Threnval said quietly. Perhaps the nature you should have shown us before we allowed you to join. Keiko felt anger rise in her chest. The new anger. The old anger. You want to see our true nature? Fine, let me tell you about it. Yes, our ancestors were hunters. Yes, we evolved to chase down prey until it couldn't run anymore. But do you know what else we evolved? Cooperation, empathy, the ability to see others as part of our pack. We don't just hunt. We protect. We sacrifice for the group. We stand together. She pointed at the viewing window where ships from hundreds of worlds moved peacefully through space. Every species in this accordance evolved somehow. Some of you were prey animals. Some were scavengers. Some were parasites. Do we judge you by your evolutionary past? No, we judge you by your choices. Judge us the same way. The chamber was silent. Then Representative Keltha spoke. She was from a species that looked like giant mantises. The ambassador makes a fair point. But the question remains. Can humans control this awakening? Or will it control them? Keiko didn't have a good answer for that. She'd felt it herself. The urge to run, to hunt, to never stop. It was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. What's happening? Threnval demanded. A technician's voice came over the speakers. Multiple architect facilities are activating across the galaxy. Hundreds of them. They're all powering up simultaneously. Marcus Webb's face appeared on the main screen. Ambassador, I'm reading the data from those facilities. It's not good. They're not just powering up. They're broadcasting a new signal. What does it say? Marcus looked pale. It's not broadcasting to us. It's broadcasting outward, into deep space, into regions the Accordance has never explored. I don't understand. Why would they do that? Because the test wasn't just to identify apex predators, Marcus said slowly. It was to call them. The architects weren't just warning the galaxy about species like the Kareth. They were using the signal as bait. And something just heard it. On the edge of known space, deep in the black between galaxies, something ancient stirred. It had been sleeping for 200,000 years, waiting, dreaming of the hunt. Now it was awake, and it was hungry. The war station hung in space like a metal moon. Captain Sarah Okonkwo had seen the data from Earth. She knew what it was. An architect facility, one of hundreds now active across the galaxy. Weapons hot, she ordered. All crew to combat stations. Her crew moved without hesitation now. The awakening had changed them. They were faster, sharper, more coordinated. It should have taken minutes to prepare for combat. It took seconds. Captain, I'm reading massive power signatures from the station, her sensor officer reported. It's charging weapons. Fire first. All batteries. The Prometheus unleashed everything it had. Missiles streaked toward the ancient station. Energy beams cut through the darkness. For a moment, Sarah thought they might destroy it before it could respond. Then the station's shields activated. Every shot splashed harmlessly against a barrier of energy. Shields at that strength shouldn't be possible. her weapons officer said. Our technology can't match it. The architects had 200,000 years of development on us, Sarah muttered. Evasive pattern delta. Keep us moving, the station fired back. A beam of purple energy sliced through space, missing the Prometheus by barely 10 meters. That would have cut us in half, the pilot gasped. Sarah felt her mind working in ways it never had before, calculating angles, predicting movements, planning 3 steps ahead. This wasn't just combat training. This was instinct. Ancient instinct, hard to port. Now the ship twisted. Another beam missed. They're adapting to our movements, the sensor officer warned. Then we adapt faster. Full speed toward the station. Direct approach, Captain, that's suicide. No, it's unexpected. Do it, the Prometheus accelerated directly at the war station. Beams fired from every angle. The ship dodged and weaved, moving like a living thing. Sarah called out commands by instinct, not thought. Her crew responded the same way. They closed to point-blank range. Fire everything. Then emergency jump. The ship's weapons fired at less than a kilometer distance. The station's shields held, but several shots penetrated where the barrier was weakest. Explosions bloomed across the ancient structure. The Prometheus vanished in a flash of light, jumping to safety. Damage report, Sarah demanded, breathing hard. Hull integrity at 83%. We took some hits. No casualties. Captain, we've been in combat for 72 hours. The crew should be exhausted. Sarah looked around the bridge. Everyone was alert, ready. She checked her own condition. Her body ached, but she could keep going. They all could. Human endurance, she said quietly. Send the combat data to Earth. They need to see what we can do. The data reached Ambassador Keiko Chen 2 hours later. She watched the footage 3 times, unable to believe what she was seeing. The Prometheus should have been destroyed. Any other Accordance ship would have been. But humans were different. She called an emergency meeting with the Accordance Council leadership. Only the senior representatives attended this time. The chamber felt smaller, more intimate, more dangerous. You've all seen the data, Keiko began. The architect stations are active. They're hostile, and they're testing us. Testing humans, you mean? Threnval said. They only attack your ships, so far. But Dr. Webb believes the stations are preparing for something else. The signal that went into deep space? Something answered. The chamber fell silent. Representative Muldar's crystalline form shimmered. What answered? Keiko pulled up the data on the main screen. We don't know exactly. But we're detecting movement. Something big is coming from outside the galaxy. Multiple somethings. They're heading toward Accordance space. The Kareth, Keltha said. They're still alive. We believe so. The architects didn't destroy them. They put them into some kind of hibernation. Now they're waking up. The implications hung in the air like a storm about to break. Threnval spoke slowly. The Accordance has been at peace for 200,000 years. We have no military. No weapons beyond what's needed for basic defense. Our entire civilization is built on cooperation and trade. We are not warriors. I know, Keiko said. And humanity is awakening into something the rest of us cannot become. Something we fear. I know that too. So what do you propose? Keiko had known this moment would come. She'd prepared for it, but actually saying the words was harder than she'd imagined. The Kareth are coming. Based on the architect records, they're unstoppable by conventional means. They're apex predators like humans, but they never evolved past the hunt. They're pure aggression, pure persistence. They will not stop until everything in the Accordance is dead or enslaved. And you believe humanity can stop them, Muldar said. It wasn't a question. I believe we're the only ones who can, but there's a price, and name it. The great pacification ends permanently. Humanity will not suppress our nature again. We will remain awakened. We will develop military forces. We will train for war. And yes, that makes us dangerous, but it also makes us your only hope. The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives shouted approval. Others called it blackmail. A few simply looked resigned. Threnval raised a tentacle for silence. You ask us to unleash the monster we feared in exchange for protection from an even greater monster. Is that correct? I ask you to let us be what we are, Keiko said firmly. Not monsters, humans, all of what that means. The good and the difficult. The peaceful and the warrior. You can't have one without the other. And if we refuse, if we choose to face the Kareth without humanity's help,
Keiko met his eyes.
Then you'll die. All of you. And humanity will survive because we remember how to fight for survival. But we'd rather stand with you. We'd rather protect what we've built together. That's the human way, too. We protect the pack. Kelta clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. A difficult choice. Accept the monster within our borders, or face the monster at our gates. There's a third option, Keiko said. Stop seeing us as monsters. See us as what we really are. Protectors who happen to be very, very good at violence when we need to be. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, it was close. But the resolution passed. Humanity would remain awakened. They would prepare for war, and they would stand as the shield between the accordance and the coming darkness. As Keiko left the chamber, she received a message from Dr. Webb. The Kareth fleet is bigger than we thought. Much bigger. They're moving fast. ETA to the outer colonies is 6 months. Keiko stared at the message for a long moment. 6 months to prepare for a war against an enemy that had nearly destroyed the galaxy once before. 6 months to prove that humanity wasn't the monster the galaxy feared, but the one it needed. She opened a channel to all human colonies and military installations. This is Ambassador Chen. By order of the Accordance Council, all human military forces are to be activated. Begin recruitment and training immediately. We have 6 months until contact with a hostile force. In that time, we will prepare not just ourselves, but our allies. The Accordance has forgotten how to fight. We will teach them. She paused, thinking about what came next. And to every human who can hear this message, I know you feel it. The awakening. The urge to hunt, to run, to never give up. Don't fight it. Embrace it. Because that's what's going to save us all. The monster isn't within us. It never was. What's within us is the will to survive, the refusal to surrender, the absolute determination to protect what matters. That's not monstrous. That's human. Across the galaxy, in 1,000 colonies, humans heard her words and they began to prepare for war. The training grounds on Mars had been built in 3 weeks. What once took years now happened in days. The awakening had changed more than just human aggression. It had changed everything. Lieutenant James Park stood before a class of 50 accordant species. Most had never held a weapon before. Some didn't have hands. All looked terrified. Combat basics, James began. Lesson 1. You are not going to like what I teach you. A representative from the Threll species raised a delicate appendage. Why do we need to learn violence? It goes against everything our civilization stands for. James had heard this question 100 times. His answer never changed. Because the Kareth are coming, and they don't care about your civilization or your values. They only care about the hunt. Either you learn to fight or you die. Those are the options. The Threll looked ill but nodded slowly. Good. Now combat isn't about being strong or fast. It's about not giving up. Watch. James began to run, around the training ground, then around it again, and again. After 30 minutes, he was still running. After an hour, his students were staring in disbelief. After 2 hours, some had left to rest. James kept running. When he finally stopped 4 hours later, he was sweating but still standing. That's lesson 1, he said, breathing hard but steady. Endurance. The Kareth will be stronger than you, faster than you, better armed than you, but if you can outlast them, if you can keep fighting when they expect you to quit, you can win. Humans have been doing it for 300,000 years. A Moldar representative shimmered forward. Our species cannot run for 4 hours. It's physically impossible. Then you find another way to endure. You take shifts. You support each other. You adapt. That's lesson 2. Adaptation. James pulled up tactical displays. Look at these battle scenarios. The Kareth use overwhelming force. They hit hard and expect you to break. Standard response is to retreat. Don't. Hold your ground until the last possible second, then fall back slowly. Make them work for every meter. Exhaust them. This seems cruel, the Threll said quietly. War is cruel, but losing is crueler. Ask the architects. Oh wait, you can't. They're extinct. The harsh words hung in the air, but James didn't apologize. There wasn't time for gentle truths. Across the galaxy, similar training was happening on every world. Humans taught tactics, strategy, endurance, and the most important lesson of all, how to keep fighting when every instinct says to give up. The Accordance was learning to be warriors, badly, slowly, but learning. Captain Sarah Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, now serving as flagship for humanity's defensive fleet. Around her ship, 300 human vessels maintained formation, and scattered among them 5,000 accordant ships, ready to defend their homes. Ready, but not prepared. Not really. The Kareth fleet just entered sensor range, her tactical officer reported. Mother of God. There are thousands of them. Sarah's blood ran cold, but her voice stayed calm. Show me. The main screen filled with red icons. Each one represented a Kareth warship. They moved in perfect coordination like a school of predatory fish. They're heading for the Kepler line, Sarah said. That's where they'll hit us first. Send word to all colonies in that sector. Begin evacuation immediately. Captain, we have reports coming in from forward scouts. The Kareth ships are broadcasting something. Let me hear it. The bridge filled with sound, not words. Something more primal. Howls. Screams. The sound of creatures that lived only to hunt. They're working themselves into a frenzy, Sarah realized. Getting ready for the kill. Dr. Webb's face appeared on a secondary screen. He was aboard the command station in orbit around Earth. Sarah, I'm analyzing their ship configurations. They're not using shields like we do. They're using their hulls as weapons. Ram and board tactics. They want close combat. Of course they do. They're persistence hunters like us, but they never learned to fight any other way. Sarah felt her tactical mind working through the problem. We can use that. Long-range engagement. Hit and run. Make them chase us for how long? As long as it takes. Ambassador Keiko Chen watched the fleet movements from the Accordance Council chamber. Around her, representatives from every species watched in silence. This was it. The moment that would define the future of the galaxy. Threnval spoke quietly. How long until contact? 3 hours, Keiko replied. Can we win? Keiko didn't answer immediately. She thought about Captain Okonkwo and her crew, about Lieutenant Park and his students, about every human who had embraced the awakening despite the fear and the risk. Humans have a saying, she finally said. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. The Kareth are bigger, stronger, more numerous, but they've been asleep for 200,000 years. We've been evolving, learning, adapting. They're still just hunters. We're more than that now. You didn't answer the question. I know, because I don't know if we can win. But I know we won't give up, and sometimes that's enough. The Kareth fleet hit the Kepler line like a tidal wave. Human and Accordance ships met them with everything they had. Energy beams lit up space. Missiles streaked through the darkness. Ships exploded on both sides, but the Kareth kept coming. They're not slowing down, Sarah's weapons officer shouted. They're absorbing losses and pushing through. All ships, pattern gamma. Fall back in stages. Make them chase us through the asteroid field. The human ships moved first, their awakened crews responding with inhuman speed. The Accordance ships followed more slowly, but they followed. The entire defensive line retreated in careful coordination. The Kareth pursued, exactly as Sarah hoped they would. They're entering the asteroid field, sensors reported. Detonate the mines. The asteroids exploded. Hundreds of them had been hollowed out and filled with explosives over the past 6 months. The blasts tore through the Kareth formation, destroying dozens of ships. But dozens weren't enough. Thousands remained. They're adapting, Sarah said, spreading out, avoiding the obvious trap zones. They learn fast, so do we, sending targets to all ships, firing pattern Omega. The fleet opened fire, focusing on individual Kareth ships, overwhelming them one at a time. It was working. Slowly, too slowly. Captain, they're breaking through on the left flank. 20 ships have made it past our line. Sarah felt her jaw tighten. Lieutenant Park's garrison is in that sector. On the surface of Kepler Station, James Park watched the sky fill with fire. 20 Kareth ships were descending toward the colony. His garrison of 200 humans and 500 Accordance trainees stood ready. This is what we trained for, he said over the communication channel. They think we'll break. We won't. Hold the line. No matter what, the Kareth ships landed. Ramps dropped, and the ancient enemy finally revealed itself. They looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, similar build, but their eyes were pure black. No white, no iris, just endless hunger. They wore armor covered in trophies from previous hunts, bones, skulls, flags from conquered worlds, and they moved like nightmares, fast, coordinated, relentless. Here they come, James said. Fire at will. The battle for Kepler Station began. It would last 3 days without stopping, and it would show the galaxy exactly what happened when one apex predator met another. The battle for Kepler Station had become a legend before it even ended. James Park and his garrison fought for 72 hours without rest. They held choke points, set traps, fell back and counterattacked, used every tactic humanity had ever invented. The Kareth had never faced an enemy like this before. Pray that fought back. Pray that wouldn't break. On the third day, James stood in the ruins of the main defense position. His armor was scorched black. Blood covered his face from a dozen wounds. Around him, his soldiers looked like ghosts. But they were still standing. The Kareth commander approached slowly. It had taken heavy losses trying to break through. Now it stood before James, studying him with those black eyes. "You should be dead," it said in a voice like grinding metal. The translator box made the words understandable. "You're kind. So small, so weak. Why do you not break?" James laughed. It hurt. Everything hurt. But he laughed anyway. "Because we're human. We don't know how to quit." The Kareth tilted its head. "We are the same. Apex hunters. We never stop either." "No, we're not the same." James raised his weapon. His hands shook from exhaustion, but his aim stayed true. "You hunt because that's all you are. We fight because we choose to. We protect because we choose to. Choice makes all the difference. Then choose to die well." The Kareth attacked. James met it head-on. In space above, Captain Sarah Okonkwo was making impossible decisions. The Kareth fleet had taken heavy losses, but so had the Accordants. 200 ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost, and the enemy still had superior numbers. "Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Deep Reconnaissance," her communications officer reported. "The Kareth flagship has been identified. It's the large vessel at the center of their formation." Sarah pulled up the tactical display. The flagship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Prometheus. It was covered in weapons and armor. Taking it down would require every ship in the fleet, or one very determined boarding party. "I need volunteers," Sarah announced on the fleet-wide channel. "Boarding action on the enemy flagship. This is a one-way mission. I won't lie to you. The chances of survival are almost zero." Silence on the channel. Then one voice. Then another. Then hundreds. Every human ship volunteered. And to Sarah's surprise, many Accordant ships did too. "We've learned from you," said the captain of a Threll vessel. "Endurance, persistence, never giving up. Let us show you we learned well." Sarah felt tears in her eyes but blinked them away. "All right, form up. We're going hunting." 20 ships broke from the defensive line. They accelerated toward the Kareth flagship, weaving through enemy fire. Half were destroyed in the first minute. The survivors kept coming. The Prometheus led the charge. Sarah stood on the bridge, calling out commands with perfect calm even as explosions rocked the ship around her. "Ramming speed. All power to forward shields. Prepare boarding teams." "Captain, at this speed we'll tear the ship apart when we hit," her pilot warned. "Then we better hit them harder than they hit us." Impact in 30 seconds, the crew braced. Some prayed. Some simply closed their eyes. Sarah watched the flagship grow larger on the screen. 20 seconds, 10-5 impact. The Prometheus smashed into the flagship's hull like a bullet through paper. The forward section crumpled, but the boarding ramps deployed. Armored humans and Accordant soldiers poured into the enemy ship. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers. The Kareth fought viciously, but they'd never faced an enemy inside their own ship before. They were used to being the ones who boarded. Being the hunters, not the hunted. Sarah led her team deeper into the flagship. They fought through room after room. Hours passed, then days. They slept in shifts, always keeping watch. Always moving forward. "This is insane," gasped a Threll soldier beside her. "We should be dead." "Probably," Sarah agreed. "Keep moving." They reached the command chamber on the third day. The Kareth leadership waited inside. 20 of them. The best warriors of their species. Sarah's team had 15 soldiers left. All wounded, all exhausted, all determined. "End of the hunt," the Kareth leader said. "You die here." Sarah checked her weapon. Almost out of ammunition. She looked at her team. They nodded. "Ready, then we die fighting." That's the human way. The battle was brutal. Close quarters. No room for tactics. Just raw combat. Sarah fought with everything she had. Beside her, humans and Accordant soldiers worked together, covering each other, supporting each other, fighting as one pack. The Kareth were better warriors individually, but they'd forgotten how to work as a team. Each one fought alone, even surrounded by others. One by one, they fell. Sarah stood over the Kareth leader, her weapon aimed at its head. Around her, the command chamber was silent. All the other Kareth were down. Why? The leader gasped. Black blood leaked from multiple wounds. Why do you never stop? Because others depend on us, Sarah said. Because we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for the pack, for the tribe, for everyone who can't fight. That's what you never understood. Hunting isn't just about the kill. It's about feeding the pack. She pulled the trigger. The Kareth flagship began to lose power. Without their leaders, the remaining crew panicked. Some fought each other. Some tried to flee. The organized assault fell apart. In space, the Kareth fleet faltered. Ship after ship began to retreat. Without their flagship, without their leaders, they were just scattered hunters. No longer a unified threat. The Accordance fleet pursued, but Sarah called them back. Let them go. They're broken. They'll scatter to the edges of the galaxy and never threaten anyone again. We made our point. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Keiko Chen stood before the Accordance Council once more. This time the chamber was different, quieter, more respectful. The final count, she reported. The Kareth fleet has scattered. 40% of their ships were destroyed. The rest have fled to deep space. Our analysts believe they'll never reorganize. The threat is over. At what cost? Threnval asked quietly. 217 ships lost, 40,000 lives, 31 colonies damaged. Kepler Station is in ruins. Keiko paused. But the Accordance stands, and humanity stands with it. Kelta clicked her mandibles softly. We owe you an apology. We called you monsters. We feared what you might become. We were wrong. You weren't wrong to be cautious, Keiko said. We are dangerous. The awakening proved that. But danger isn't the same as evil. A knife can kill or it can save a life. It depends on the hand that holds it. The human hand, it seems, holds it for protection, Threnval said. The Council has voted. Humanity will be recognized as the official defense force of the Accordance. You will train our species, protect our borders, stand as the shield against the darkness. We accept. But on one condition. Name it. You remember what you learned. All of you. The Accordance has spent 200,000 years forgetting how to fight. That made you vulnerable. You don't need to become warriors like us. But you need to remember that peace is something worth defending, with force if necessary. The council members looked at each other. Slowly they nodded. Agreed, Threnval said. We will remember, Keiko smiled. Then humanity pledges itself to your defense. When the darkness comes, we will wake, and we will hold the line. On Mars, Lieutenant James Park stood before a new class of students. His wounds had healed, leaving scars he wore proudly. Around him, thousands of Accordance species waited to learn. Welcome to combat training, he began. Lesson 1. You are stronger than you think. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Okonkwo looked out at the stars. Her ship was being repaired, but she was already planning the next patrol route. The galaxy was big. There would be other threats. Other dangers, but humanity would be ready. In her quarters, she'd hung a plaque. Simple words that meant everything. The monster protects. Dr. Marcus Webb sat in his laboratory studying the genetic data from the awakening. The changes were permanent. Humanity would never go back to what they were before. The genes that had been suppressed were now active forever. But as he looked at the data, he noticed something interesting. The aggression genes were active, yes, but so were others. Empathy, cooperation, sacrifice. The awakening hadn't just made humans more dangerous. It had made them more human. All of what that meant. He sent his findings to Ambassador Chen with a simple note. We're not monsters. We never were. We're just finally whole. Keiko read the message and smiled. She opened a channel to all human colonies, to every human who had fought, sacrificed, and endured. This is Ambassador Chen with a final message. The war is over. The Kareth are defeated. The Accordance is safe, and humanity has found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as protectors. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We were asked to suppress what we are, to hide our nature, to be less than ourselves. We refused, and in refusing, we saved everyone. Remember that. Remember what we're capable of when we embrace all of ourselves. The peaceful and the warrior, the gentle and the fierce, the human and the hunter. The monster sleeps within us still. It always will. But now the galaxy knows the truth. The monster isn't mindless rage. It's determination. It's endurance. It's the refusal to let others suffer when we can protect them. It's the absolute certainty that when we say not one step back, we mean it. So let the monster sleep. But never let it die, because when the darkness comes again, and it will, we'll need to wake. And when we do, the galaxy will know they're safe, because humanity stands watch, Chen out. Across the galaxy, humans heard her words, and they understood. The monster beneath humanity wasn't something to fear. It was something to honor, to respect, to use wisely. Because sometimes the greatest act of peace is the willingness to fight for it, and no one fought like humanity.